Hi guys, Olive here. Here today to do a little bit more of a casual video because today I'm going to be answering your questions. Although I am still having difficulty wrapping my head around this fact, this channel recently hit 10,000 subscribers. Once again, thank you very, very much. So in honor of hitting such an unbelievable milestone, I decided to open myself up for questions to do in a Q&A video, which is this video. So today I'm going to be answering your questions. Because this is a more casual video and because I just got off of work, I am going to be enjoying a beer in this video. In this video, I will be enjoying an Amish Mafia, which is a strawberry rhubarb sour made by Rivertown Brewing, which is a local brewery here to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I would like to say that you can taste the strawberry rhubarb more than you actually can, but as the ladies of the restricted section have recently noted in a video that they did, you can barely taste any flavors when it's in a sour beer. It just tastes sour, but I still like it. Whoa, they fill these so full, holy shit. Well, I have beer on my legs in case you wanted an update. All right, let's answer some questions now. I tried to organize these questions the absolute best way I could if any of them kind of had common themes. I tried to group them together, but the ones that I'm going to be starting with are just general questions about me. Roxanne at the Novel Sanctuary, who is a wonderful human being, asked several different questions. The first one is dream travel place. I don't know that I have just one dream travel place. Of course, I want to go back to Russia and ideally take my husband this time I go. I want to specifically do a Baltic cruise, so see a whole bunch of different European cities and then end in St. Petersburg. But since I pretty much have interest in everything on the planet, there's not really any place that I don't want to go and see. My husband and I are currently trying to see more of our own country, specifically cities. I'm not much of a beach person, and I don't really like to go to the mountains or go skiing or anything that people typically do on vacation. So when we go on vacation, we're going to other US cities, which has been a really awesome experience so far. I'm looking forward to keeping on doing that, but I also do want to do some international travel here in the not too distant future. My husband really wants to see Japan, so that's on the list. The list is never ending. Roxanne also asked if I'm planning on getting any more pets. While I would really like to get another cat, I'm not quite sure how it would work with our current cat, Theodora. She is a very, very sweet little girl, but she is a rescue. And in her foster home where she was living before we adopted her, she got beat up on a lot because she's a very passive, sweet cat. She has never hissed, scratched, done anything aggressive. She doesn't even like to be held, but the only thing she'll do to let you know that she doesn't like it is meow endlessly. She doesn't do anything to try to get you to put her down. She is just a very sweet, passive cat, but that leads her to getting beat up on by other cats. But I never want to put her in a situation where she has to be afraid or she's getting beat up on. In her foster home, they told us she used to hide in closets. I never want her to go back to that life. So for right now, we are just sticking with her. Roxanne also asked if there is a particular historical figure who I admire. And I have to say, not really. When I read about anyone in history, I'm more just interested in their life. I'm interested in the events in their life. I'm interested in their flaws. I'm interested in their strengths. I'm interested in seeing them as a whole person. And because I'm very comfortable with seeing flaws in the people who I'm reading about and studying, I can't say I ever admire someone, but the people who I tend to have a fondness for in history and in the present day are people who are strong, but also kind. And lastly, Roxanne asks if I have a favorite reading snack. And I do. I actually have a bag of them here in my reading room, considering this is where I do a good amount of my reading. They are dried mango snacks. They're basically mango jerky. This one is from Walmart. We typically buy them at Aldi. And the ones that we've been buying at Walmart and Aldi are sweetened. I prefer when they're not. There was this one brand, I forget what it was called, but they made this same snack. It was called Much Ado About Mango. They did not sweeten it, but it was also much more expensive than this kind is. But yeah, these are my absolute favorite, and they're not quite as guilt-inducing as other snacks, considering it's just dried fruit. You have to be careful not to eat too much of it though, because like 2 or 3 slices of these dried mango snacks, it's like one entire mango. So if you eat a whole bag, you're eating like 3 or 4 mangoes, I'm pretty sure. Calorie dense. Harriet Rosie asks, what are some of your non-bookish hobbies? I have talked about these sporadically over the years. I very much enjoy watching specific TV shows, particularly any shows that involve Gordon Ramsay or reality television. I also really enjoy cooking, sometimes baking. I'm always cooking up a storm here in our house. Sundays are typically dedicated to me preparing meals for the week. I particularly love to make soup. I'm really good at it. I also really enjoy playing video games. It might surprise you to find out that I do play World of Warcraft quite frequently. Maybe I should get a BookTube guild going. Harriet also asks, is there a genre you'd like to explore more? And I have talked about this pretty recently. I would like to explore more romance. I recently read The Kiss Quotient and absolutely loved it. I know that not all romance books are like that, and there are some things to watch out for in the genre. My friend Sabrina over at Steakachino has warned me about some of those things. But yeah, romance. So if anyone has any good recommendations for me about where they think I should start with romance, or if there's any particular romance book that you think I would like based on my interests, please let me know. Gemma asks, what would be a specific little detail about you that usually surprises people when they get to know you better? I thought a lot about this one, and I think a lot of people think that I'm very proper and put together, when in reality, in person, I'm really silly. I'm joking around all the time. I'm constantly making fun of myself and others. I laugh at pretty much everything. I'm just kind of goofy. That's not to say that the professional, composed version of me that you often see on this channel isn't authentic. It 100% is. But when I'm just out and joking around and having a good time, or I'm out at the bar, like, I think a lot of people would be surprised to see that I'm really relaxed and easygoing and quick to laugh, quick to have a good time, quick to embarrass myself if it makes me and others laugh. The next question is, what are the first things about people that you take a mental picture of when you're meeting them for the first time? Ever since seeing this question, I've really thought about what is the first thing I notice about people when I first meet them. And I'm seeing the whole picture. In fact, I sometimes have to try to slow my brain down when I first meet someone so that I remember that person's name, because often I'm not hearing it. I'm just kind of taking in a new person when I first meet them. Does that sound weird? It probably does. I think the answer is then that I notice everything. It's not little details. It's the whole picture that I'm kind of imprinting on my mind. And the last question that Gemma asks is, if you had to open that dream restaurant, what would be the name of it? As I said before, I really enjoy making soup. It is a dream of mine to own a soup restaurant, and I did have a far off idea that I would like to name my restaurant Super, like S-O-U-P-E-R, but my dreams were recently dashed when I found out that there is a restaurant in Uptown Pittsburgh called Super Bowl. This is a very sports-oriented city. So now I don't know what to name my restaurant that will likely not exist for 25 years. Michelle asks quite a few questions, the first one being top 3 wines. That depends entirely on my mood and what I'm eating. If I'm eating something light or a salad, then I would like a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. If I'm eating something a little heavier, want something a little bit more full-bodied, I really like Shiraz. Or if I want to literally drink dessert, then I like Moscato. She also asks, proper bookmarks, random paper / stuff, or folded corners. As I just talked about in the reading habits tag, I much prefer bookmarks because my bookmarks are awesome. But if I'm desperate, I will use other things or fold the corners. That would be the absolute last resort. Typically, I have Post-its somewhere near me, considering I start a lot of books on my lunch break at work, and I have Post-its readily available. So those typically act as a placeholder until I can come home and exchange it for a bookmark. This last question is really entertaining. She says, you had a book on your bookshelf in the background in your old place with the word cauliflower on the spine. What is that book and where did it go? For some odd reason, that spine always caught my eye in your videos and now I miss it. It is still on my shelves. It is just slightly out of the camera view, so I will get it. It is called The Cauliflower by Nicola Barker. There is the spine, and it caught your eye because it is eye-catching. And the last question in this more generalized section is from Katie, and she asks, what is a question you always wished someone would ask you? This was another one that I really struggled to think of an answer for. I don't assume that people want to know anything about me, which is why I was kind of on the fence about doing this additional Q&A in the first place. But I guess I wish that people would ask me what I'm reading more off of BookTube. Plenty of people on BookTube want to know what I'm reading, but when I'm out in public and I'm reading, I would love if someone would ask me what I'm reading. I know that's kind of a faux pas amongst us readers to interrupt someone while they're reading, but I'm always more than happy to talk to someone about what I'm reading. I don't know how people couldn't be curious about what you're reading. I often have books on my desk at work and none of my coworkers are interested. I know they're not readers, but it blows my mind that they're not asking about it. The next set of questions are all about travel and my job. Stephanie over at That's What She Read asks, if you could plan a month-long trip abroad, where would you go? Unlimited budget in this scenario. Because I'm not feeling very creative in this moment, I would probably just go on that Baltic cruise. I tend to get a little antsy if I'm away from home for too long, so I would make it like 2 weeks and then come home and then hopefully save some of that unlimited budget for a future trip. Stephanie also asked, what is a movie that has made you cry? It's very difficult to get me to cry. I don't do it very frequently, but I would say the most recent time I cried was when I watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with my husband. He had been trying to get me to watch that movie since literally 2007, and we only recently watched it. Britta asks, when are you coming to Amsterdam? I hope very soon. Megan or Sue over at the restricted section, they did not specify who was asking these questions, asked, how are you enjoying traveling more for work? Do you have any tips on how to make traveling easier or how to feel more comfortable in unfamiliar places? As far as I know, I am done traveling for work. I don't know if they'll ask me to go somewhere else. I would be open to it. Hopefully I have a little bit more time here at home before that happens. I did 6 weeks in a little over 2 months worth of time, so I was gone for the majority of those 2 months, which was difficult, especially since we had just moved here to our new place. It was very difficult for me to feel settled. I feel like I was just settling in when I started to travel, and then I was gone for a long period of time, and every time I would come back, I wouldn't be able to feel settled because I had a new travel date upcoming. So it was a little bit of unfortunate timing of when my traveling started. That being said, I really did enjoy it. I like going new places. I like meeting new people. I like doing new things. It can be stressful right at first. So I would say find things that are familiar to you. Like I found a Barnes & Noble in the area and would go there and hang out a little bit and just kind of walk around, do some things that I normally do at home, but in the new place. And then also not be afraid to go out and try new places. I tried a whole bunch of new restaurants, especially since it was on the company. I really can't give any more advice than that because I've not been doing this for very long. And now currently I am done traveling. If they have me do any more in the future, perhaps I'll learn some new things. And the last question in this section is from Lindsay Robertson. And she asks, what got you into accounting? When I was an undergrad, I had to take a class or two in accounting to satisfy some requirements of my minor, I think it was. And once I got into that class, I realized that I had a natural talent for it. I have very logic, numbers-oriented brain, so I just kind of found that I clicked with it. This is why it's really good when you're an undergrad to take a wide variety of courses, even those ones that you aren't 100% interested in, because you don't know where your natural talents lie. You don't know if you're going to feel drawn toward a specific field. A few years after I finished my bachelor's, I did move on to do some additional coursework in accounting to more fully qualify myself for the job that I have right now. I should note though, I don't work as an accountant. I work in the finance field. Knowing accounting, being familiar with accounting has definitely helped me, and my job definitely has elements where you need to know specific things from accounting, but I'm not an accountant. Now moving on to some questions about my channel and some channels that I would recommend. My friend Sabrina over at Steakachino asks, could you please shout out some of your favorite smaller booktubers? I would absolutely love to. In fact, I was hoping that some people would ask me this because when I hit 10K, the thing that I wanted to do the most was pay it forward. I will link in the description box below all the different shout out videos that I've done over the years. All of those shout outs still stand. I still love all of those channels, but I'll give you 3 additional ones that I've been watching a lot lately. The first one would be Laura over at Reading in Bed, Jacqueline at 6 Minutes for Me, and Alex from Big Al Books. And then on a similar note, I got another question asking me for some recommendations of booktubers who read nonfiction. I know Ange from Beyond the Pages really enjoys reading history books. Vanessa from Split Reads is constantly reading amazing sounding nonfiction books. And then 2 booktubers who I feel have very similar tastes to me when it comes to nonfiction would be, of course, Natalie at We Need Honey and Heidi over at My Reading Life. Of course, I will link all of these channels down in the description box below. Brian at Brian's Bookshelves asks me, which booktuber inspired you to start your channel? I actually did a whole video about all the booktubers who inspired me to start this channel, and I will link that down below. Ojaswi Sharma asks, advice for starting out on YouTube. Do you even think it is worth it to start a channel now, considering IGTV and other emerging platforms and YouTube's inevitable downfall? I have a lot of different advice when it comes to starting your own YouTube channel, and I try to answer this question differently every time I am presented with it so that it's not just me saying the same thing over and over again or saying the same things that you may be hearing elsewhere. I would say that you need to make sure that you have the time to dedicate to this before you start. I don't think a lot of people understand what an intense time commitment it is having a booktube channel, and it only grows more time intensive as your channel grows. How much time you put in is entirely dependent upon how many videos you want to be putting up every week or every month. If you only want to do 2 videos per month, that's fine. You just need to make sure you have enough time for those and remain consistent with it. If you want people to grow used to having you around, then you need to be around. I see a lot of booktubers go away for a while and then come back and then do the same thing over again. And life happens. Listen, I understand, but I see those same people growing frustrated that they're not growing as fast as they could have if they had been posting more consistently, because you just need to be present in people's lives for them to want to engage with you on a regular basis. And the only way you can do that is to make sure you have the time to give to this. It doesn't have to be all of your time, but you need to carve out some time for it. I guess the bottom line is that if you want your channel to be an important, regular part of people's lives, then it needs to be important to you to be consistent with it. And the second part of the question with all the stuff about if it's even worth it, I don't see YouTube as having an inevitable downfall at all. Do I think it's going to be as prominent as it is right now forever? No. I don't know about any other creators, but I'm not thinking about the longevity of this channel when it comes to decades in the future. I can't see that far in advance, so I'm not really worried about it. There are a couple additional questions within this comment. Do you think having a channel has helped you in your personal and professional life? How do you manage your time to feel fulfilled in your career, your personal life, while also reading so vastly and maintaining a channel? My channel has no effect on my professional life, but my personal life, I've been able to meet a ton of people online and in person. I've made a ton more friends now. I feel a lot more fulfilled in my personal life. But the question about managing my time is an interesting one because it's extremely difficult. I have been for the past couple years and still am struggling to find a way to balance everything. I can't give you any advice because I don't even know how to do it myself. I do the best I can. This next one is a really interesting question. Secondhand Shan asks, have you ever thought about quitting BookTube or giving up on making videos? What would you say to your past self or someone currently considering that? If anyone on BookTube tells you that they've never considered quitting, I would think they're not being entirely honest with you. I think all of us come to a point where we think about quitting, whether it's just feeling overwhelmed with all the pressures of BookTube, which you can claim are self-imposed. Whatever, you're doing things in front of an audience, there's pressure involved, or people getting overwhelmed with how much of a time commitment it is, or they get nasty comments or continual dislikes, which is something I definitely deal with, or if it's drama in the community. There are a number of different reasons that would make people want to quit, and it's certainly crossed my mind at different points. My personal and professional life has been really demanding of me this year, so it's been hard to keep up with it and want to keep going, especially when there's just some stuff behind the scenes that I don't always want to deal with, that I just really don't need any more stress in my life. As much joy as this community brings into my life, there are things that come along with it. I know a lot of people want to put BookTube out there as this joyous place, supporting and loving all the time. That's not true. This is an intensely loving and kind and supportive community, but it's not always pretty. At the end of the day, we all are people, and people have disagreements and there are conflicts and different things behind the scenes. Whenever I start to get in the headspace of feeling disconnected from the community or just feeling like I don't want to keep going, I start to think about all the things that I do love about it, and I'm trying to give myself more and more permission to take a step back when I need to. So that's what I would recommend to anyone who is considering quitting BookTube. Think about whether or not your channel brings more joy into your life than it does frustration. And if it's just currently bringing you frustration because of things going on in your life, maybe just try to take a step back for a little while. You will be astounded how much perspective just a little time off will give you. Bree Hill asks, if 10K Olive could give one piece of advice to brand new BookTube Olive, what would it be? I think I would want to tell the 2015 version of me to give myself more permission to go easier on myself. I set really, really high expectations of myself, and I've done it the entire time I've had this channel. So I think I would just want to put it in my own head to ease up on myself a little bit. Shay Geeks Out asks, how do you avoid the pressures of being a certain kind of channel? This is another difficult one to answer because I've never been concerned with being a specific type of channel. I've never been concerned with defining what this channel is. I've never been concerned with following any trends or reading specific books, but I've always been that way. I've always been the type of person to march to the beat of my own drummer. I'm not afraid to have the interests that I do. I'm not afraid to read the books that I want. I'm not afraid to ignore the books that other people are reading if they don't interest me. I would hate to think that anyone on BookTube would be reading books that they're not legitimately interested in reading just because they feel like they have to because everyone else is. But yeah, you can always trust that I'm going to be doing exactly what I want to do, not what I feel like I have to do on this channel. That's just not in my DNA. Well, it is getting a little bit late and I need to go and eat some dinner considering I haven't done that yet. I still do have quite a few questions left to answer, but I'm going to save those for a part 2. In part 2, you can expect to hear me talk about my reading taste, the evolution of my reading taste, where I find my nonfiction books, how I get myself out of a reading slump, and I'll also be answering a few questions about Russia and also giving some book recommendations, so be sure to check it out. I'd like to give a big thank you to everyone who asked me questions, whether I answered your question in this section or whether I will be answering it in the next section. I really appreciate you asking it. Any comments you have on this video can go in the comment section below, or you can find me on a variety of different places on social media. The links to all of my profiles are linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in part 2. Bye.